Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. We're diving into one of the most pressing issues of our time: climate change. Now, you've likely heard about it, seen the headlines, maybe even felt its effects firsthand. But how much do we really understand about this global phenomenon? From melting glaciers to extreme weather events, the planet seems to be sending us warning signals. Scientists are sounding the alarm, urging immediate action. But amidst the overwhelming information, a crucial question arises. Is the Earth truly warming at an alarming rate, or is this a case of exaggeration? In this video, we're going on a journey to uncover the truth behind climate change. We'll examine the science, dissect the arguments, and explore the very real impacts being felt across the globe. So, buckle up and get ready to engage in a conversation that's shaping our future. Now, the idea of our planet warming might seem abstract, even distant. But the reality is, the Earth's climate has always been in flux, shifting naturally over millennia. So what's different now? Why are scientists so concerned about the current warming trend? That's the heart of the debate. Is this warming just another natural fluctuation, or are human activities pushing the planet toward a dangerous tipping point? On one hand, we have a chorus of voices, backed by scientific consensus, warning us about the consequences of inaction. They point to rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and disruptions to ecosystems as evidence of a planet in peril. On the other hand, there are those who argue that the threat of climate change is overblown, that the Earth's systems are more resilient than we give them credit for. They question the validity of climate models, highlight historical periods of warming, and point to potential economic downsides of aggressive climate action. So, who's right? Is the Earth truly on a dangerous warming trajectory, or is the threat exaggerated? That's what we'll be exploring in this video. To understand the science of global warming, we need to first delve into the concept of the greenhouse effect. Now, this isn't some abstract theory. It's basic physics, and it's essential for life as we know it. Imagine the Earth as a giant greenhouse, with our atmosphere acting like the glass walls. Certain gases in the atmosphere, like carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor, trap some of the sun's heat, preventing it from escaping back into space. This natural process is what keeps our planet warm enough to support life. However, human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas, are releasing massive amounts of these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. This is like adding extra layers of glass to our greenhouse, trapping more heat and causing the planet to warm up at an unnatural rate. Think of it this way. For centuries, the Earth's atmosphere maintained a delicate balance, but now we're pumping billions of tons of extra greenhouse gases into it every year. It's like throwing a wrench into a finely tuned machine. The consequences are inevitable. How do we know the Earth is warming? The evidence is overwhelming. Data shows a 1 degree Celsius rise since the late 19th century. This change is significant and unprecedented. Is this natural or human-caused? Human activities are the main cause. 97% of scientists agree. Now you might be thinking, okay, so the Earth is getting a bit warmer, but what does that really mean for us? Well, the impacts of global warming are far-reaching and are already being felt around the world. One of the most visible signs is the melting of glaciers and ice sheets. From the Arctic to the Himalayas, glaciers are retreating at an alarming rate, adding vast amounts of water to the oceans. This melting ice is a major contributor to rising sea levels, threatening coastal communities and ecosystems. But the impacts go far beyond melting ice. Global warming is disrupting weather patterns, leading to more frequent and intense heat waves, droughts, wildfires, and extreme precipitation events. These extreme weather events have devastating consequences, causing loss of life, property damage, and economic disruption. And it's not just about the immediate impacts. Global warming is also causing long-term changes to our planet, such as ocean acidification, shifts in plant and animal life, and disruptions to food production. These changes pose significant challenges to our way of life and threaten the delicate balance of our planet's ecosystems. We've established that there's a strong scientific consensus on climate change, but it's also true that there are dissenting voices. Some individuals and groups remain skeptical of the scientific findings, often raising counter-arguments to challenge the prevailing view. These dissenting voices, while in the minority, play a crucial role in the climate change discourse. It's important to understand their perspectives, examine their arguments, and engage in a constructive dialogue to address concerns. and separate fact from misinformation. One of the main arguments put forward by climate change skeptics is that the Earth's climate has always fluctuated naturally. They point to historical periods of warming and cooling, such as the medieval warm period and the Little Ice Age, as evidence that the current warming trend is nothing out of the ordinary. Another argument centers around the role of the sun. Skeptics often claim that variations in solar activity, such as sunspots and solar flares, are the primary drivers of climate change, not human activities. They argue that the sun's energy output has increased in recent decades, contributing to the observed warming. It's true that the Earth's climate has experienced natural fluctuations throughout its history. These fluctuations are driven by a complex interplay of factors, including variations in Earth's orbit, volcanic activity, and changes in ocean currents. However, scientists have carefully studied these natural climate cycles and have concluded that they cannot explain the rapid warming observed in recent decades. The rate and magnitude of current warming far exceed any natural fluctuations observed in the past. When it comes to the sun's influence, it's undeniable that our star plays a fundamental role in Earth's climate. The sun's energy output does vary over time, and these variations can have a measurable impact on our planet's temperature. However, extensive research has shown that solar activity has remained relatively constant or even slightly decreased over the past few decades, while global temperatures have continued to rise. This contradicts the claim that increased solar activity is the primary driver of current warming. Section 3. Separating fact from fiction, addressing common climate change myths. Unfortunately, the climate change debate has become entangled with misinformation and misleading claims. These myths often circulate online and in the media, creating confusion and undermining public understanding of the issue. One persistent myth is that the scientific community is divided on climate change. This is simply not true. As we've discussed, there's an overwhelming consensus among climate scientists that global warming is real, it's happening now, and it's driven by human activities. Another misconception is that addressing climate change will cripple the economy. While transitioning to a low-carbon economy will require significant investments and policy changes, many economists argue that the cost of inaction far outweighs the cost of taking action. They point to the increasing costs of climate-related disasters, the economic opportunities in renewable energy and green technologies, and the potential for job creation in a sustainable economy. It's about shifting to a more resilient and sustainable economic model, not about sacrificing economic growth. Section 1. A World Transformed. Witnessing the real-time impacts of climate change. While the science of climate change is complex, its impacts are becoming increasingly tangible across the globe. From rising sea levels swallowing coastlines to extreme weather events wreaking havoc, the evidence of a changing planet is no longer confined to scientific journals, it's unfolding before our very eyes. Take, for instance, the Arctic. This once pristine region, covered in ice and snow for millennia, is warming at twice the rate of the rest of the planet. The consequences are dramatic. Glaciers, once towering giants, are rapidly melting, contributing to rising sea levels and threatening the livelihoods of indigenous communities who depend on them. The Arctic's plight is a stark warning of what happens when the Earth's delicate systems are disrupted. But it's not an isolated incident. From the coral reefs bleaching and dying in warming oceans to the forests succumbing to mega-droughts and wildfires, the impacts of climate change are being felt in every corner of the globe. Section 2. Vanishing Islands, Vanishing Cultures, Human Stories from the Front Lines of Climate Change. The human toll of climate change is perhaps its most heartbreaking aspect. While we often talk about climate change in terms of abstract data and global averages, the reality is that it's impacting real people, communities, and cultures in profound ways. Consider the small island nations scattered across the Pacific Ocean. For these communities, climate change is not a distant threat, it's an existential crisis. Rising sea levels are slowly swallowing their homelands, forcing them to confront the unthinkable, leaving behind their ancestral lands and becoming climate refugees. But it's not just about losing land. It's about losing a way of life, a culture intricately tied to the natural world. The stories of these communities serve as a poignant reminder that climate change is not just an environmental issue. It's a human rights issue, a social justice issue, and a moral imperative to act. While the direct impacts of climate change are significant in themselves, what makes this issue even more complex and concerning is its role as a threat multiplier. Climate change has the potential to exacerbate existing problems, such as poverty, conflict, and displacement, leading to cascading crises that are difficult to manage. For example, as droughts intensify in already arid regions, competition for scarce water resources can escalate tensions between communities, potentially leading to conflict and displacement. Similarly, as sea levels rise and coastal areas become more vulnerable to storms, the risk of mass displacement and migration increases, putting additional strain on resources and infrastructure. Climate change acts as a catalyst, amplifying existing vulnerabilities and creating a vicious cycle that is difficult to break. It's a stark reminder that addressing climate change is not just about protecting the environment, it's about building a more peaceful, just, and equitable world for all. Faced with the enormity of climate change, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. What can one person do? Every action matters. Every step contributes to a larger solution. We are active participants in shaping our planet's future. Our choices have ripple effects. Where do we begin? Reduce our carbon footprint. Be mindful of energy consumption. Explore renewable energy sources. Embrace sustainable transportation. Engage with communities and officials. Advocate for clean energy policies. Section 2. Shifting the paradigm from individual choices to collective action. Tackling climate change requires collective action on an unprecedented scale. It demands collaboration, innovation, and a shared vision for a sustainable future. Governments set targets, implement policies, and invest in clean technologies. Businesses must adopt sustainable models and reduce waste. Collective action, through protests and initiatives, drives change. United voices create a wave of change for a sustainable future. Section 1. The uncomfortable truth, facing the reality of a warming world. As we've journeyed through the complexities of climate change, one thing has become abundantly clear: the Earth is warming, and human activities are the dominant cause. This isn't a matter of opinion or political ideology. It's the overwhelming consensus of the scientific community, backed by decades of rigorous research and mountains of evidence. Yes, the Earth's climate has fluctuated throughout its long history, but the warming we're witnessing now is unlike anything our planet has experienced before. The rate of change is unprecedented, and the consequences are already being felt across the globe, from melting glaciers and rising seas to more frequent and intense heat waves, droughts, and extreme weather events. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of this challenge, to succumb to a sense of despair or apathy. But we cannot afford to turn away from the uncomfortable truth. Ignoring the problem won't make it go away, it will only make it worse. Section 2. The power of now embracing urgent action for a sustainable future. The good news is that it's not too late to act. We still have time to avert the most catastrophic consequences of climate change and chart a more sustainable course for our planet. But that window of opportunity is closing rapidly. The longer we wait, the more difficult and costly it will be to address the problem. The solutions to climate change are within reach. We have the technology to transition to clean energy sources, reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, and create a more sustainable and resilient economy. What we need now is the political will, the collective action, and the unwavering commitment to make it happen. This isn't about sacrificing our way of life, it's about creating a better one. A world powered by clean energy, where cities are designed for people, not cars, where we value sustainability over consumption, and where we live in harmony with nature, not at its expense. Our shared destiny, a call to action for a planet in peril. Climate change is our battle. We are all interconnected. Educate yourself, talk to others, make sustainable choices, support sustainable businesses, make your voice heard, contact officials. The future is still being written. What role will you play? Choose action, choose hope. Thank you. Now it's your turn. Share this video, start a conversation. Together we can make a difference.